Hello and welcome to Eureka, coming to you from Science Braveways and PH7. In the studio today we have me, Emma.
Me, James.
And me, Chris.
And this week's episode is all about the changing seasons. So we're going to be talking about why seasons change, whether everywhere has changing seasons, and also, because next week the clocks are changing, so we're going to be talking about all about that, why that happens. And then a little bit on seasonal depression. A bit of a sad
to end the show on a wonderful note.
And the much revered quiz as well at the end.
Yep.
But first of all, we have the news.
So, I'm here with the news. The latest science news from across the week. It's all kind of depressing, actually. I was doing the research for this, and there's very rarely happy science news.
Well, new discoveries sometimes,
Cures for stuff.
Yeah, but none this week.
None this week. It's all depressing. We'll start with a study which has got a lot of coverage. This is the news of a decline of 75% in flying insects in the last 30 years.
Wow, that's a lot.
This research has come from protected sites in Germany. And has it's quite funny, actually. It basically started from this guy being like, when I'm driving, I think that I'm getting less insects hitting the windscreen. And I think they were like, right, let's confirm this. And the results were the worse than they feared. So massive amounts. This is in the last 30 years, so incredibly short amount of time to lose such an incredibly large amount of individuals. So, of course, people don't really seem to care as much about insects as other...
No, I think I might be a bit of
a
criminal in this sense, because I'm one for swatting flies.
Exactly.
So.
I think some people, at least sort of on the comments of the news, were sort of like, so what? Why does it matter? We've lost some of our flying insects. That's no bother to me. But, of course, they play important roles, pollinating, and, of course, they're food. They're food for some of the animals that maybe the public prefers.
Yeah. I was really confused for a second. I was like, does anyone eat insects?
Yeah, I can't wait to tuck into my meal of insects every night. That's the first bit of news. The second bit of news, which I'll talk about because it's the second bit of sort of similar news, was the news about the penguin colony. Did either of you hear about this?
Was this about them, like, warming themselves with poo?
No. I mean, that seems quite happy. I'm bringing you some more devastating.
Oh, okay.
News. I wish I could. I wish I'd looked at that.
I've heard some other news.
So this is the news of a colony of 36,000 penguin individuals. These are the Adelie penguins, of which only 2 survived this year. So really low numbers. Scientists are blaming this on high amounts of sea ice late in the season. So they're having to travel too far to hunt. And the action that they want to see is to ban krill fishing. In the nearby waters
to give the penguins more food.
Essentially, yeah. And again, this hit big news, and people are much more devastated at the loss of penguins than the loss of insects.
Yeah, me included.
They're pretty cute. Yeah.
Moving on to some more interesting news. Interesting in the sense that it might be happier. Wolves are friendlier than we first thought. So this was quite interesting, I thought. This was the idea that, a long-held idea is that when we domesticated wolves into dogs, we made them friendlier and more able to cooperate. But scientists seem to think this isn't the case. So they tested a classic rope-pulling experiment, which basically means that wolves have to cooperate with each other.
Oh, so friendly with each other, not with us.
Yeah, this is the kind of thing. It's like they concluded that they're just as friendly as dogs because they can cooperate with each other, but I'm not sure they cooperate with humans.
They still might bite your hand off. Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought that was quite interesting, and it reminded me of something that I read not that long ago, which is the idea that not only have humans domesticated animals such as wolves, but also ourselves. So
Wait, we domesticated ourselves.
yeah, kind of without realizing it. So this came from a group of scientists looking at the brain functions in humans and realizing that we're retaining more of our sort of juvenile instincts, which is similar to what happens during domestication.
Oh, okay.
And they've given the reason actually to being years of hanging the most sort of murderous people in our society, and we've sort of slowly domesticated ourselves that way. We've selected for nice people by killing off murderers. And
So we work better with each other then?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Although
Not
I mean,
with other animals.
killing off murderers. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
not
not
very
really.
domesticated.
It's not necessarily selecting, is it? Because you're just making more murderers. But
Well, deep.
I see. I see. Your point.
Yeah. More news. It keeps coming.
There's so much this week. My goodness.
This is slightly different from biology because we do incorporate all sciences into this show.
Oh, of course, yeah.
This is Google's AI team, artificial intelligence team, DeepMind, has revealed a new artificial intelligence system called AlphaGo Zero that can learn all by itself. So this is pretty moving science. They made a computer program, played the ancient Chinese game Go, and it learnt without being told any instructions at all. It just learnt through playing with itself.
Oh, wow.
So
Just like a baby.
yeah, it began. Yeah, exactly. And it began by placing stones on the Go board at random, but it swiftly improved as it discovered winning strategies. This is pretty cool. This is the first time ever that an artificial intelligence has been able to learn purely by itself without any pre-programming. And in terms of implication, I think the group of scientists thought that this sort of could improve with drug discoveries. You could just set this program to go on sort of looking at new drugs.
Oh, yeah.
That's cool.
And without any input at all from us. It could potentially discover new drugs.
Try and find like a binding partner for a protein or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can just sort of let it run in the corner without any input at all.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah. And one last bit of news, because I've just been reading this, and it was done in Sheffield, which is why I thought I should mention it.
Relevant.
So
Local
we're based in
news.
Sheffield, in case you don't know.
Yeah.
Listener.
All our national listeners.
Yeah. International.
Yeah, the world over.
There's no limit. This is news that basically great tits are getting longer beaks because we're feeding them through like feeders which require them to put their beaks through. So this was a study done at Sheffield where they compared great tits from areas which are highly fed.
I love comparing great tits.
I left that one far too late. And comparing great tits which are being fed by humans and comparing great tits which aren't, and basically they found that great tits which are being fed by humans have larger beaks.
So it's a bit like Darwin.
Yeah,
It's a bit like Darwin, a little bit.
It is, exactly.
Yeah.
It's this idea of getting longer beaks to get more food. But this time it's caused by a purely like human.
Yeah,
influence.
human. So it's artificial selection.
Yeah,
in a way. Yeah.
In a way, without meaning to.
Yeah. Accidental artificial.
Does that mean the birds who can't get into the human feeders just die?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a process which has occurred over several years. I think it's more the fact that the individuals that are able to get into the feeders are more likely to survive.
Yeah. And they're more likely, they're going to be able to feed their offspring more as well, I suppose.
Yeah.
So their offspring are going to survive more.
Yeah, so that concludes the news, unless you two have anything to add.
Don't know.
No, not as expert as you. Sorry, Chris.
All right, then.
Okay, so on to discussion one, which, as previously alluded to by Emma, is why do the seasons change? So do you guys know much about the seasons? Could you name them for me, perhaps?
Well, I can name the English seasons.
Yeah, the English seasons.
Summer, winter, spring, autumn.
And the one
Not in the
Scottish
right order.
season?
The one Scottish Rain.
The cold, yes. No, so yes, you named them correctly. Obviously, spring, summer, autumn, winter. Do we know why there might be seasons at all?
Something to do with like rotating around the sun, I think.
Yeah, it's rotating around the room coupled with the tilt.
Around
of
the
that-
room.
No, what, did I say the
It's because Chris walks around rooms. That's why we got seasons, guys.
room? Rotating around the sun, coupled with the tilt of that axis.
Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
right. I think the what it is the Earth's on a slight tilt, about 23 degrees, I think,
okay.
and I think that changes as the Earth goes around the sun. So when it's winter for us,
The tilt changes.
let me just look this up here. The Earth's axis is an imaginary line through the centre of the Earth between the North and South poles. The Earth is not at a 90-degree angle. It's 23.5 degrees, okay? And so the axis tilt is tilted slightly compared to where the Earth is. And as the Earth travels around the sun over the course of the year, the tilt of the axis points the North or the South hemisphere a different way from, like, it's a different distance from the sun, so that's what it is.
So
It's
the
not
tilt is always the
changes.
same. It's
Yeah.
just like which bit's the closest to the
Yeah,
sun.
exactly.
okay.
It's one of these like concepts which is quite hard to explain.
Yeah.
with words, but like
Yeah, you need, like, a
visually,
diagram,
when
yeah.
when you sit, which maybe we should become a TV show.
A TV show? Yeah, I mean, our
Let's do
international
it.
listeners,
Yeah.
they'd love that, I'm sure. So yeah, at the moment, we're going to be tilted quite far away from the sun because
Sad times.
it's cold. We're not, sad times at the end, Emma. That's the seasonal
Yeah.
depression. Don't get down there yet. So that's why. But is it seasonal everywhere? Do you know? I mean, obviously we
No.
have seasons here, but
Well, I think I might know the answer to this one.
you might know the answer.
Well, it's not the same seasons everywhere, is it? Because if you're in the equator, it's not like you don't get like the cold season, do you? Because it's hot.
Well, yeah, it's hot a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So you get like rainy season there, don't you? You have like the not rainy season and the rainy season.
Yeah, so I think you in places which are is that near the equator that happens?
Yeah.
I thought it was near the North and South Pole. that
Maybe
they
it's
don't
there
get any
too.
seas. I don't. If it's not about Darwin, I don't know.
Well, I'm just going to have to look this one up. Hold on.
I just know because I went to Africa once, to the Gambia specifically, and they have a rainy season.
Yes, so that's right. The four seasons only actually occur in the polar temperate regions, which are regions like Europe and the US, where there are four seasons. But regions like the polar ice caps, either end, they're obviously not really going to get four seasons because they're pretty cold all of the time. And then the areas which are tropical or subtropical, so that's around the equator, or it's like, I think it's up to the Tropic of Capricorn and the Tropic of Cancer, like those bands, those other bands around the Earth. So they really, as you mentioned earlier, they only have like a rainy season and a non-rainy season. When,
Do you know why? Do you know why they have rain and not rain?
that is because...
Do you need to look it up in your brain?
Let me just access my my brain here. The rain changes more than the temperature. No, that's not why. Okay, so no, we don't know the answer to that one, Emma. Sorry about that.
No one knows.
No one knows. Go and I tell you what, if you do know, go home,
Yeah,
look
bit
it
of
up,
homework.
and tweet it at us.
Yeah.
At Eureka on Forge, guys. We look forward to reading all your tweets
We do.
over the week. Gonna be good times. Okay, so finally, let's just have a little bit of a discussion about markers of the seasons. So this is really specifically for the UK. So do you guys have any thoughts on
I
what
know.
might?
I know a marker for winter.
Oh yeah,
Jolly. 'Tis the season to
Jolly.
be jolly. So everyone's just more jolly in the winter. That's a big
Wow.
marker. That's
Wow.
how you know.
Well, as we'll see at the end, maybe
not jolly.
But,
Oh.
I disagree.
I think we're looking for more like natural markers, not
Well, emotions is natural.
like you
not
know,
man-made.
the outside not
Okay.
emotions, markers.
Okay.
So
No.
for example, in the spring, right? snowdrops and daffodils. Okay, they'll usually
Ooh,
be seen in
yes.
the spring, so that's a marker of like spring's arrived. And I think stuff like that. Summer, so trees they're gonna have leaves again,
Yeah.
unlike in the.
What about
in
the Easter
winter.
Bunny? Is that a marker of going from spring to summer?
Yep. Yep, that's a marker, sure thing. And so autumn as well. What might be a marker of autumn?
Is it leaves falling off the trees?
That
which
is a
which
good
I
one.
assume is why Americans call it fall.
Yeah, if you're American, it's fall.
Yeah, because they need sort of words which are very descriptive. For them to
Yeah,
understand.
very.
You can't understand.
It is
Very
easy
nice.
to understand. Fall. Yeah. So other than obviously the orange leaves, there's fungi. You get a lot more fungi.
Oh, really? I
the
assume that's because it's more wet.
Yeah, it's more wet and it's still quite warm. So
Yeah,
and they
you
need
get
a
that.
warm, damp environment, and especially like in leaves that are wet on the floor.
Yeah.
Like that's a good environment.
Gets
for
a bit
them.
spookier as well in autumn.
Yeah.
Bit spook. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pumpkins
That's a
start
big
growing
marker.
on people's doors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
More
that is a
ghosts
marker.
around.
Yeah, that is another one. And then also fruits and nuts and seeds as well in autumn.
Yep.
So apples, typically harvested in autumn. They're a tasty snack to
Ooh,
have.
yeah.
And just other nuts.
I love
And
my-
I don't know what I associate squirrels with autumn. I don't
Really?
know. I don't know
I mean,
why.
squirrels
Maybe
are
it's 'cause
definitely
of
about
nuts.
all year.
Yeah, I mean, I know they are alive all year, but maybe that's when they
don't
bury their nuts.
hibernate? Do squirrels hibernate? I would have thought they do.
I don't think they do.
Hedgehogs do.
Let's have a confirm with this. Let's have a quick Google.
Speed Google.
A quick speed Google. I'm not going to stop this recording. I'm going to do it all in. Do squirrels hibernate? It's the first question on Google. It's a suggested Google search. So I think it's a question on everyone's mind. And the short answer is no. They don't hibernate. They just sleep
you're
a lot.
right.
So
Just lazy.
Sounds like a good life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And winter. Got any suggestions for a winter occurrence that might mark winter? There's only 2 written down here.
Snow.
So. Yeah, snow's one of them.
Snow
Yeah.
is falling all around me. Children playing. Everyone.
No, it's
that
actually
another marker?
migration of swans. But
okay.
That's how the song should go. But
it
Snow
didn't
is
catch on.
no, I didn't catch on that one. So yeah, that's the seasons.
Lovely.
Next up,
Nice.
we've got the quiz. All right, guys. So it's time for the first quiz of this academic year.
Fantastic.
Woohoo!
This is what I've been waiting for all summer.
Yeah.
It
Me
is.
too.
It is. I've been lonely without these quizzes.
This is why I came to this university.
Yeah. International students out there, come on down as well next year. You could be involved.
You could be doing this quiz.
At 5:30 on a Friday evening.
What a time to spend a Friday evening. So the first thing we've got to do, guys, is come up with some buzzer noises relative to the seasons or the time changing or seasonal depression. Either any of those topics.
Cry.
You got a buzzer noise, Chris?
Yeah, let's go with TikTok.
A classic there. That's the one I'd have gone for.
time related.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't think of one. I'm gonna just go with because it's like a ghost and it's like autumn, Halloween, nearly Halloween.
Well, that's a bit far stretched, but
Go with it.
I want to let you have it. Okay.
We're not too strict here.
All right. Are we all ready? We've got 15 questions. You've got to
Okay.
keep track of your own score.
What do we get if we win?
Pride.
Pride. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Seasonal
Sorry, I haven't bought a
depression.
prize this week. Sometimes there are prizes. So
Oh.
there you go. And the last question is might need a bit of pen work. So
Oh,
if you've got a pen at home, get it now and a piece of paper.
I don't know if I have one.
I'm not sure I have one.
Well,
either.
no one in the studio has one, so they're going to have to be really good at
Just use my
mental
brain.
arithmetic. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So we'll start off with some science-based questions. 'Cause
Great.
We are science. Yeah, okay. Question 1. What 3 factors typically mark a season change? Is it A, changes in animal sleeping patterns? B, changes in colour, hue and brightness of the sun? Is it C, changes in weather, ecology and amount
TikTok.
of daylight? Chris.
C.
Correct. It is changes
Didn't
in weather,
realise
ecology and
we
amount
could
of
do it
daylight.
before the end of the
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, we should have laid out the rules.
Yeah, I should have laid out the
Yeah.
rules. Let me explain. You can interrupt while I'm reading the options out.
Okay.
Okay. But if you buzz in and you get it wrong,
You look a fool.
Yeah, you look a fool, and the other person just gets a free answer.
Cool.
So they get as long as they want to think. Well, we're not going to be here all of Friday evening, but they'll have some more
Till
time
winter.
So that's 1 point to Chris there. Question 2. What pigment results in the brown tree leaves that we see in autumn? Is it A, pigmentums? Is it B, redenid? Is it C, beta-hephalopum? Or is it D, carotenoids?
TikTok
Chris?
D.
Correct, it is carotenoids.
Oh, I didn't know that one.
Interestingly, though, the carotenoids are in the leaves all year, but it's the absence of chlorophyll from the leaves that allows the carotenoids
that's what
to
I was
show
like
through.
listening for, like chlorophyll, but that's green, isn't it?
Yeah, that's
So-
green.
The orange is always there, and it's just
hidden.
waits for its moment.
Yeah,
magic.
it does.
Yep.
So 2 points to Chris, Emma.
I'm doing
A bit slow off the mark.
I am new though.
This next one's a nearest to question, okay? So, what is sorry, folks. What is the angle of the Earth's tilt nearest to?
TikTok.
Woo!
Chris said TikTok
I
first.
forgot I had to have a buzz.
26.5 degrees.
No, wrong.
Emma?
23 and a half.
Bang on, Emma.
Yeah,
Well
I
done.
know.
That's
I read the notes.
2-1 to Chris. Well done. Question 4. What does meteorological summer... Oh, sorry. What date does meteorological summer begin in Australia? Nearest to.
Woo!
Emma.
November the 13th.
I think it's going to be a bit later. I think it's going to be like December the 4th.
Oh, it's December the 1st. Well done. Well done. So meteorological seasons are based on just like temperature. Basically, that's why where they're defined. So December 1st is when
So not
it's
like
going to change.
the leaves.
And things like that, I think. So question 5. What date does astronomical summer begin in Australia? Nearest to.
TikTok.
Chris?
I'm going slightly earlier.
Oh.
Or slightly later. No, we're going to stick with my original. I'm going to go November the 28th.
November the 28th.
Do I get a guess as well?
Yeah, it's nearest to.
Okay. So I'll go with January the 2nd.
Well, the actual answer is December 21st.
Oh.
So I think Emma just scrapes
Yeah.
that one there.
Yeah.
So the astronomical summer is to do with is determined by the exact times of the transit of the sun over the tropics of Cancer and the tropics of Capricorn. So that's the solstices. So that's how the astronomical summer is defined over the meteorological summer.
Okay.
So there's 2 different definitions
Yeah.
out there.
Who knew it could be so confusing?
It is a bit confusing. So what's the score?
3-2.
3-2 to Chris. Question 6. Here we come. At what exact time and date do the clocks go back this year?
Woo.
Is it Emma?
It's the 29th of October at 2 BST, also known as 1 GMT. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Very,
Well
very
done.
impressive.
I'm impressed by that
I
one.
researched that section.
Oh, I
So-
see. Okay, you know it. You know
Yeah.
it. It's
Accuse you of
3-all.
cheating, but
That's the level.
Being prepared.
Question 7. What does BST stand for in the context? Emma.
British summertime.
Correct. It's not big slow time. That was going to be one of the options.
Oh, sorry, I didn't get
what was
your
the third
joke one.
option?
The third option was Bengal Shalong time.
I think I would have gone with that. That would have fooled me.
Yeah,
should have
tripped
just
some
put
people out.
British Standard Time. I feel like that would have been a confusing one.
Oh, no, the fourth option was barometer suggested time. So, I'm not that smart. Okay, so it's 4-3 to Emma.
Yeah.
Question 8, the final sciencey question. Well, they're all a bit sciencey, but the final hardcore one is seasonal depression is commonly associated with which season?
But twit-twoo. No.
That's not your buzzer noise, Emma.
Winter.
Correct, winter.
Just for getting out.
That is 5-3. I think.
Yeah.
So a couple of film and TV questions here, so maybe Chris can pull it back. Question 9. The 2008 film Autumn centres around a political what? Is it A, prisoner, B, person, C, pipe, or D, pensioner?
TikTok?
Chris.
I'm going to go pensioner.
It's not.
Is it prisoner?
It is prisoner. It centres around a political prisoner.
I thought I was just assuming like a political movie, and I was imagining pensioners cold
Quite political.
and
No.
not able to put on the heating.
No, it was political prisoner there, Autumn. Question 10. The 1997 TV series Midsummer Murders is a popular crime drama centering around which county? Is it A, Middlesex, B, Middleton, C, Midsummer, or D?
TikTok.
Chris?
It's got to be Middlesex, surely.
What?
Wait,
No.
What?
It's midsummer, right?
Yeah, it centers around Midsummer.
Yeah, no, to be fair, I was like, I just thought they
about
happened.
counties.
Yeah, I was talking about counties.
Oh, was it?
Wait,
is there
what
a
was the
county
question?
called Midsummer?
No,
Yeah.
I said Middlesex.
Yeah.
Wait, what was the question?
The question is, the 1997 TV series Midsummer Murders is a popular crime drama centering around which county?
Yeah.
And the answer is Midsummer, because it's not actually midsummer. It's a Midsummer's a place.
Was it a
it's-
county?
But it's not a county,
the
surely.
Wikipedia page says it is.
A county called Midsummer.
I think it's fictional.
Oh.
I think it's a fictional county.
that
Can I
makes
just
sense.
assume, because is Middlesex also a county?
Yeah, Middlesex is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I don't think my answer's too I thought it just meant that the murders happened
Yeah,
midsummer.
me too. So
Yeah,
did I.
that's what I thought.
I thought it was like
until I
only
looked it
in
up
the
this
summer.
afternoon.
That's interesting.
So
okay.
yeah, it's about the place. So yeah. So what's the scores now?
Well, I have
7-3.
7-3.
Yeah.
I'll go with
Emma's really
that.
pulled it back. It's all right. We got some quick fire questions coming up.
Okay.
So here we go. Mails on buzzers. Question 11. List all the seasons in the UK in alphabetical order.
Twit-twoo.
Chris. Oh no.
Not my buzzer. That should have been. I have a real affinity to the sound of twit-twoo. I meant TikTok.
Chris.
Autumn. Spring. Summer. Winter.
Correct.
I mean, I feel like I spent a little bit too
Slow
long.
but correct.
Slow and steady wins.
You can have it.
Yeah, whatever.
Question 12. How many minutes do we change the clocks by in the UK?
Woo.
Emma.
60.
Correct. Question 13. How many seconds do we change the clocks by in the UK?
Twit-twoo.
Chris.
3,600.
I'm going to have to accept your first answer, which is wrong.
Is it 3,600?
Correct. Yeah, it is. Question 14. Which season is usually associated with being cold?
Twit-twoo.
Chris.
Winter.
Correct.
Yes.
And the final question. This is a long one. Okay.
Okay.
Like, you don't have pens. You're gonna
I can use my phone. Is this...
you're gonna really have to think about this one.
All
okay.
right.
Right. It's 2 paragraphs in length.
Oh, God.
This coming Thursday, Peter Andre is planning to reunite with his good friend Stephen Hawking after a
he?
long summer apart. Yeah,
Oh,
he is.
lovely.
Okay. During the summer, Peter went on an extremely expensive holiday to New Zealand. He flew all the way there and back again. He especially enjoyed the flight back, where he flew over New Zealand, Australia, Indonesia, Ethiopia, Sudan, Libya, France, and the UK. Peter has bought Stephen a clock back from holiday as a present. Unfortunately, the clock is set to Australian time, and Peter doesn't own any clocks back in the UK for reference. The clock is currently set to midday. Although Peter isn't the smartest, he does recall that Australia is 2 hours behind New Zealand, Indonesia is 0.5 hours behind Australia. Furthermore, Ethiopia is 1 hour ahead of Sudan, and Sudan is 6 hours behind Indonesia. Additionally, Libya is 1 hour behind Sudan and France another 1 hour behind that. He also remembers that France is in the same time zone as Germany and Germany is 1 hour ahead of the UK. Knowing all of this information, what time should Peter set the clock to?
TikTok.
Chris.
Midday.
Incorrect.
11 a.m.
No, you guys didn't even try. I spent so long doing this question. It's not even that hard, actually. It's surprisingly easy if you write it down.
If we had a pen, yeah.
Yeah.
The correct answer is midnight. That's when you should say it to.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I was about as far away as
possible.
you could have been to the correct answer.
Yeah. So, yeah. What are the final scores, folks?
I don't know. I'm embarrassed to say.
I think Emma
it was
probably
a
won.
definite win.
Well
I think
done,
maybe
Emma.
11-5.
11-5?
11-4.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Embarrassing.
Chris.
That's all right.
You got beaten by the newbie. There we
What
go.
can I say? Beginner's luck.
Cool. So now we're going to talk about the clocks changing, which happens, just so everyone's aware, it happens next Sunday. So that's the 29th. The clocks will go back an hour. So
do we get an hour in bed?
I think so, yeah. No? Spring forward, fall back. It's the way to remember it.
If it goes back an hour, oh yeah, we'll get an extra hour.
We get an extra hour, don't we?
Nice.
Nice one.
Yeah. So yeah, we're going from British summertime to Greenwich Mean Time. So that means Greenwich Mean Time is like the normal time.
Is it called that because like we get less light and it's really mean? That's quite a mean thing to
Greenwich
do, isn't
Mean
it?
Time.
Yeah.
Maybe. Might just be.
I know why it's called Greenwich Mean Time, actually. I read this in a fantastic book that I would recommend everyone to read. It's A Brief History of Humankind. Really good book. But anyway, in this really good book, it contained a bit of information. Actually, Greenwich Mean Time hasn't been around that long. The very end of the 19th century, or maybe the beginning. It was in the 19th century, so not as long as you might think.
Yeah. No.
And it started when the first train line was built between Liverpool and Manchester. And basically, at that time, they didn't have a central time system across the UK. And so they found it really hard to make a timetable because Liverpool and Manchester both had really local times.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so both Liverpool and Manchester were like, right, we need a central time to go by. And they couldn't sort of agree on a midpoint. So they decided to go somewhere completely different, which was Greenwich. And they called that their sort of agreed share time would be called Greenwich Mean Time.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool, yeah.
Yeah.
Better than my
Nice.
information.
Carry on.
And now that sets the time for the rest of the world as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, apparently nowadays they don't really like the official name for it is Coordinated Universal Time.
Oh.
I think it's just, I don't know, something to do with like scientists. They just prefer that name. I don't know why. But that's abbreviated to UTC.
Yeah, I've heard that.
So,
How does Coordinated Universal Time
yeah,
abbreviate to
know.
UTC?
I checked it. I had the same thought, but apparently it does.
What
Right.
would Coordinated Universal... Cut?
Cut.
Maybe that's...
Maybe that's why.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're going back to UTC or GMT. And so we're going away from British summertime, and that's actually the adjustment, if that makes sense. So although we're actually changing back to what's like the standard. And the reason why they have British summertime is because you can have less light in the morning and more light in the evening during the summer.
But I never get this right because surely I want more light in the evening in the winter as well.
Yeah, well, that's what I thought. I thought, like, well, in the summer, there's so much light anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Is it to do with farming?
That's what I normally hear.
It is to do with, well, there's definitely some farmers have some thoughts on it, but not good ones.
Oh, okay.
No, the farmers don't like it, apparently, because for farmers, like a lot of their work is very much based on like when the sun rises and stuff. So like apparently things like they like to harvest their crops when the dew is just fresh or something.
I thought the whole thing was done for the benefit of farmers.
Yeah.
No, farmers hate it.
So
Apparently,
God.
grain is best harvested after dew evaporates. So when field hands arrive and leave earlier in the summer, their labour is less valuable. And also cows hate it. Well,
Wait, cows?
we don't know if they hate
Fast.
it, but apparently, like they the way that they like to be milked is very much like determined by the sunlight, and so if they're milked earlier when it comes to the summer, it like disrupts their system, and they don't really like it very much.
Oh, poor cows.
So that's probably why you've heard farmers, but they hate it. The people who do like it are like business people, like shop owners, because it's lighter in the evening in summer, and so people go to the shops more.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's kind of why it's the businessmen that have pushed for it, really. The farmers don't like it very much.
I see.
Yeah. So obviously in Britain, we have British summertime.
Yeah.
And that encompasses us, Ireland and Portugal have the same like kind of time.
Nice. The best three.
The best three.
Yeah.
The top three countries. But obviously loads of countries have like some form of daylight saving time. That's kind of the official word for changing the clocks. But like we were talking about earlier with the seasons, countries in the equator don't really have it because the light's always kind of the same, so they don't really need to change it. And then countries like very far north, like in like Iceland and stuff, they don't change their clocks because it's so drastic that they like it wouldn't make a difference just changing it an hour. Because
You just don't see the sun for most of the year.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it makes
like don't see it
changing
for
it for an hour.
Yeah. And let's see. Apparently, it was first jokingly suggested by Benjamin Franklin in 1784. I mean, not really, but he said that if...
what do you mean, not really?
So it wasn't like he was like, oh, this is an official, like, I propose this. He just kind of made like this jokey comment about how, if Parisians got out of bed earlier, they wouldn't have to use as much candles because it would be lighter,
I
kind of
see.
thing.
That sparked the thought.
What?
That was a pun in there somewhere.
Oh,
Back-
I didn't
it
actually hear what he
sparked
said.
the
So.
thought. I see.
That's why I'm on this radio show.
But so yeah, that was kind of like a suggestion, but it's not like oh, he invented it. It was just like something that he said.
I've heard that the clocks going forward or the changing stuff really like reduces like national like production like loads of workers take time off because of it, and I forgot what it's called. Like the global national product is reduced or something like that.
Oh, okay.
GDP.
Yeah, GDP. Yeah.
Oh, well, that is probably possible because there have been a lot of studies. I was trying to find like the benefits and the disadvantages. There seems to be a lot of disadvantages and not very many benefits, so I don't really know why they do it, apart from just the businesses.
What are we talking about here?
Like changing your clocks, changing your times.
Probably Brexit.
But because apparently changing the clocks increases the risk of heart attack by 10%.
Oh, yeah, I heard that as well. Yeah.
Because it disrupts your sleep and the efficiency of your sleep. And like you said earlier, in theory, we get an extra hour in bed on the 29th. But in 2013, there was a study and it found that people didn't really sleep any more than they usually do on the night of the... So, and also apparently in the spring, it was the same review, they found that in the spring, the lost hour of sleep led to people being, like, have sleep loss for a whole week afterwards. So,
So it's not good.
Yeah, not really.
Not good news.
And then a 2017 study at the University of Washington and the University of Virginia found that judges in courts, if they were like sleep deprived because of the changing in time, issued longer sentences. So, because they were tired, I guess.
That's funny, because if you were tired, you might use shorter sentences because you just don't want to say as much.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Good one. I
Thanks,
appreciate
guys.
that.
So yeah, they're a bit tired, and they said go to prison for longer.
Oh, that's pretty bad, really.
Maybe not so good. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talking about changing seasons, it's reminded me of something that I learned in first year. I reckon it was. So casting my mind back here, and I can't remember what animal it was, but I remember it's related. I'm going to pretend it was a ground squirrel. I'm not sure, but let's pretend it was a ground squirrel, which do hibernate. And basically, they hibernate in their burrows. And some researchers basically looked at how they know when to go back into their burrows for the winter and lie about for a couple of months. And I think the sort of general consensus was that it's based on light levels, which would make sense.
Yeah.
But they did an experiment where they basically...
Blindfolded them?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah,
really?
Yeah, they just kept them. They just... I mean, it's quite sad, really. This is probably not the highlight year of this squirrel's life, but they basically just kept them in a black box for a year.
The low light year.
Yeah. And they still knew to go back into hibernation, despite the fact that there was no change in
Really?
light.
Really?
Yeah, once late winter, early winter had started, they went back to hibernate, despite the fact that there was no temperature or light changes. So
That's
this
interesting.
sort of idea of like an internal clock.
Yeah, there
and
is something about
circadian rhythm.
Yeah,
but
circadian rhythm.
just long term.
And it's not like they were consciously ticking it away, you know, sort of. I'm imagining sort of like a prisoner with a chalk and like
When can I go to sleep?
One day more. But some sort of subconscious level. A lot of animals know roughly what time it is without actually any external factors.
Yeah. I think I did a study about that in my undergrad where I think it was to do with like rats, and they kept them in like boxes, but it was like they could change the time that they slept for if they manipulated like the light levels. So they could change, like, rather than like waking up at 6 and going to bed at 6, they would wake up at like 11 and go to bed at 11, but they couldn't change the amount of time that they would sleep or wake for. Like, so it's kind of like they had this like be awake for like, I don't know, like 12 hours programmed into them, but they could just change when those 12 hours were, which is quite interesting.
Very nice.
A bit of a divergent from the clocks changing, but I think that's probably all I have to say on the topic. The only other thing is there's some people have a winter savings time, but it's very rare. The only places, well, Namibia used to use it to prevent children from walking to school in the dark.
Sounds sensible.
Yeah, to prevent assaults. And then also Czechoslovakia had it from December 1946 to February 1947, so like about 2 months. But I think it was like an act in like law, and they never like cancelled the act. So in theory, the Czech government could be like, we're going back, we're doing winter savings time, but they don't, because obviously it wasn't that good for them.
Oh, well, there we go.
Very nice.
And that's all there is to say on the clocks changing.
Let's
Cool.
wrap that up.
So up next, we've got seasonal depression.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. Okay, so the final discussion of the show, we've saved the best till last, is on seasonal depression. And just to begin with, just a shout out to Wei, who did the research for me, because I'm lazy. So yeah, this is about seasonal depression. So, do you guys think that you get maybe more down at winter?
Yeah.
Would you say?
I'd say I do.
This is a thing?
I don't think I do,
I wouldn't
actually,
say that.
but-
Yeah, but you don't go outside.
Yeah, I don't go outside that much,
Yeah.
so...
I wouldn't say like I don't get like depression, but I definitely get like a bit sadder in the winter.
Okay. Yeah,
But just to clarify, I do actually go outside every day. I just don't want to-
Yeah, but only to like get to another building.
Well, yeah, I'm still going outside.
I think I agree with you. I'm not sure that I get it particularly.
No.
But
Yeah.
that's kind of backed up by the research which has been done, because apparently it's only meant to affect about 10 to 20% of people.
Oh, okay.
So it's not
Not
like
that
this is a
many.
widespread. Well, I mean, it's pretty widespread, but
Yeah.
it's not like this affects everyone. And for a long time, this was just seen as maybe sort of an old wives' tale, and maybe it wasn't backed up by science. But that changed in 1984, where winter depression was actually recognised as a mental health disorder. The symptoms were given as a persistent low mood, feeling of despair, feeling lethargic, sleeping for longer, increased cravings for carbohydrates. So those are the official scientific.
So kind of just like the symptoms of depression, but only in winter.
Yeah.
I guess, I don't think that I get it. I can kind of understand why someone might, because it's just darker and colder, and that is...
Yeah, and you just
I don't
want
know.
to stay inside and eat chips.
Yeah. And eating carbohydrates, well, you might be burning more energy because it's cold, so...
So theories as to why this occur. The first of which I have here is to do with neurons in the eye. So these are special. These are the cells at the back of our eyes which allow us to detect light, basically. And these neurons help to synchronize our circadian rhythms. That's how it's pronounced, isn't it?
Circadian, yeah.
Circadian?
Yeah.
So,
Circadian?
yeah.
Yeah, it's
That's
quite
fine.
difficult.
Yeah.
It's almost a tongue twister. So this is kind of what we were talking about earlier with the study on the ground squirrels. The idea of this sort of natural rhythm inside of us. But here they think that some of our neurons do detect light, which help us to synchronize these rhythms. And these neurons are particularly sensitive to blue light. And the idea is basically that during the winter, we don't get enough blue light into our eyes, and so we can't regulate these circadian rhythms.
I see.
Which, makes us feel perhaps a sort of unease, as if we're not quite in sync. That's one theory. I have here the prominent theory, though, is called the phase shift hypothesis. So you know that a theory's probably favoured when it gets its own name.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're on the phase shift hypothesis, and this involves the hormone melatonin, and basically melatonin levels increase at night when your eyes detect darkness, and they make us sleepy.
Oh.
So this is the
Okay.
sort of idea that you shouldn't be on your phone before you go to
Yeah.
bed, because it doesn't allow your natural hormone levels to be just right before going to bed. So the idea is that to make us sleepy, melatonin levels increase in the dark. Then melatonin goes to a region of the brain called the hypothalamus.
Hypothalamus, yeah.
Yeah.
Saw that today.
Yeah, and
You
this
saw it.
Yeah, in my
saw it?
dissection, yeah.
Wow.
Oh, hypothalamus, yeah.
How did it look?
Oh, can't really remember, to be honest. I just remember it was under the thalamus. But it all looks the same. It's all just like some mush.
Yeah.
Oh.
So,
Okay. Well, anyways, yeah. So the melatonin goes to the region of the brain, hypothalamus, which will alter the synthesis of an active thyroid hormone that alters behaviour and bodily functions. So you get this a lot with this sort of biology, isn't it? Everything has a knock-on effect. So this is kind of what's happening here. You get more levels of melatonin at winter, and then that has a knock-on effect in the brain, and then you produce another hormone, and basically that hormone, which you produce more in the winter, is meant to make you sadder. And the opposite hormone, in a way, serotonin, which is the sort of it's been sort of dubbed the happy hormone, hasn't it? That's sort of much higher in the summer. So again, it's this idea that light levels
Are affecting the level.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay. So that's kind of that idea. That's that theory. I have here also it may be a genetic element, so people are more vulnerable to the winter depression, which is kind of similar to depression in a more common sense. That there is this genetic element to it where you have a sort of predisposition to being affected by it.
I always thought it was related to vitamin D. Because I think if you get more vitamin D, isn't that supposed to be good for your mood?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, yeah, I guess both of those hypotheses seem pretty similar to me in the sense that it's just this idea that light levels affect our hormone levels.
Yeah.
And it's just the specific hormone which is separating those two theories.
It would be interesting to know whether like the rates of seasonal depression would be affected by like your genetics based on like where they originate from. So if you have genetics that are found more around the equator, maybe you're not as adapted to low light levels, and so
because that's what I was thinking,
be in trouble. But
in relation to vitamin D, a lot of people who are like Indian or like from that area have problems with not getting enough. I think this is what it is. They have problems with not getting enough vitamin D because obviously there's that thing of like. If you're darker, then you let less sunlight into your body. So I wonder if there's a difference in races whether different races get more seasonal depression.
I can comment on that actually.
Oh.
I have something in the research that I've been given that almost answers that. So this is a Amish population in Pennsylvania, and they basically don't suffer from this winter depression. So this, I mean, in the notes that I've got here, they kind of, it seems like the scientists thought that living a rural life without electricity might be influencing this. So maybe this is something that we only see in the Western civilized world.
I've heard if you go camping and you don't like take your phone or anything, it's supposed to like reset your circadian rhythm. So if you spend like 3 nights in like camping and with no man-made light, it's supposed to be like good for you because it like gets your body like back on schedule.
It's also going to be really cold
and boring,
wet, boring.
Yeah, well, obviously it's best to do in the summer.
I mean, just for a circadian rhythm, not.
The other thing that I've heard that's supposed to help with like seasonal depression, I actually did consider getting one, but they're really expensive and I don't have seasonal depression, is there's lights that you can buy that are supposed to mimic sunlight, and so you can like put them in your room and then they like rise like the sun would, and then they're supposed to be quite good for you
to simulate it.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess the point of this sort of rural effect and how it doesn't influence rural people as much, it's this idea that maybe we have to work harder in terms of the sort of human effect has to be turned on more at winter, in the sense that we have more electricity, we have more lights on to carry on living. Do you know what I mean? We have to put in more effort, sort of
to survive.
Whereas in the summer, actually, we can rely on the natural sunlight. So maybe it's something to do with that.
Yeah.
What would also be interesting is to know how it affects people in space. Like, do people in space get seasonal depression?
I mean, you've got a very small sample size there.
Yeah,
to make any conclusions.
Something else which has been suggested is just that this isn't anything to do with light levels or the increased use of artificial light, but it's just sort of a basic psychology. So just the fact that in the summer we tend to do things which we associate more with having fun. So you don't go to the beach in the winter unless you're hardcore. Most of the time people go on holiday during the summer holidays. The whole academic year for the first part of your life is revolved around the idea of having the whole summer off. So you can kind of, I don't know, maybe there's a sort of innate happiness in just summertime, not for any real reason, but just through life itself.
We do seem to have a lot of festivities over winter, though. I find
true.
Like, maybe to combat those
I
also
effects.
feel in summer there's things like people exercise more because they go out and play games with their friends, run in the park, which people don't really do in the winter, and that's obviously related to mood. And also like things like I've totally forgot. We're spending more time outside as well, because like suppose being outside in nature is supposed to be like good for you, isn't it? Which you don't really do that in winter.
In terms of treating winter depression, there hasn't really been that much done towards it, and I guess a lot of the the treatments are pretty similar to what you would have if you had a standard depression. But there are some sort of methods which are being trialled. So there's this idea that you can have light therapy, which is kind of similar to what you were talking about earlier, with the idea of sort of having these natural lights in your room which are meant to mimic the sun rising. So light therapy works through having special lamps. This is done in Scandinavia, and classrooms, children's classrooms, incorporate these lamps to try and combat this. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Is Scandinavia one of the countries that has like barely any light in the winter?
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah. I don't think I could live there. I think it'd be so depressing.
There is something about having the sunrise. I think it's the idea that the day's new. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas it's kind of like, you know, when we have like a bad day. But it's all right.
Because you feel better in the morning.
Because the day does end. Whereas if you just have, where do you stop if there's no sunrise? If you're having a bad, but you wouldn't have a bad 24 hours.
It'd be bad forever. Yeah,
a bad winter.
Bad winter. And, you're down for a couple of months.
I wonder if it's related to the fact that because when humans evolved originally, we evolved in Africa, which is a very much regular sunrise sunset kind of thing. So I wonder if that's why we like the idea of just
and this is the sort of, the idea that nature can make us happy. And so many people I think don't really think about why nature makes us happy, but I think it is just the fact that for most of our evolution we've grown up in without being covered in concrete. So maybe it's this.
No, I love getting covered in concrete.
Just say
Sorry,
yes a lot.
I ruined the conversation by thinking of concrete.
Should we wrap it up there?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's all we've got. Yeah. So thanks for listening, guys.
Yeah.
Remember to change your clocks.
Yeah.
Next Sunday.
Don't forget to change your clocks. Don't forget to
1
tune in
a.m.
next week.
Of course.
Do we know what's the radio show?
Halloween
Themed. Yeah. So
looking forward to that
it's going to be exciting.
Yeah.
It'll be next. The day that you need to change your clocks will be the day of the next episode.
Yeah.
So maybe we should do a reminder.
Yeah, and if seasonal depression's coming in, and at least you have our show to look for.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's true,
You have some really great jokes.
Yeah.
Some really great people.
And most importantly, science.
Science, exactly. Yeah. What more is it to want? Yeah.
All right.
Cool. Thanks for listening, guys. See you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.